Good morning. It's a brand new week. I am Malti Tisaida Sadek. Welcome to GTV Breakfast, bringing you the news. Now, we're streaming live on our social media handles, GTV Ghana on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitter. You can watch us there. Leave us your thoughts and your comments. Lots of stories happening. We're bringing you politics, safety, and education. Let's start off, though, from the eastern region, where President Akufo-Addo has called for an end to illicit financial outflows from the continent, which is estimated at about $88 billion. This, he says, deprives Africa of significant resources needed to support its development. Speaking at the Africa Prosperity Dialogue at Pejiasi in the eastern region, the president underscored the need for Africa to invest in productive capacity and critical infrastructure, improve the business and investment climate, and scale up efforts to mobilize domestic resources to support the development agenda. Our President Akufo-Addo has called for tolerance and coexistence among the various religious groups in the country. He said freedom of worship guaranteed in the Constitution should not be taken for granted, but rather foster peace and unity among all. The president was speaking at the 60th anniversary of the recitation of the Holy Quran organized by the Tijaniya Muslim Council of Ghana at Prang in the Pru West district of the Bono East region. We'll bring you that tape in a while. Moving on, the Ghana Police Service says even though it has reduced the number of checkpoints along the highways to ease traffic congestion, the service is determined to deploy more personnel to curb highway robberies. Now, Chief Superintendent of Police responsible for traffic law enforcement, training and research at the Motor Traffic and Transport Department of the Ghana Police Service, Dr. Sasu Mensah, was speaking at Kumasi in the Ashanti region at a sensitization forum with partners in the road sector. We'll go for a break. We'll come back shortly and bring you all the news. Welcome back. We do apologize for the break in transmission due to technical hitches. Let's move on with the news. Now, President Akufo-Addo has called for an end to illicit financial outflows from the continent, which is estimated at about $88 billion. This, he says, deprives Africa of significant resources needed to support its development. He was speaking at the Africa Prosperity Dialogue at Peduasi in the Eastern region. The president underscored the need for Africa to invest in productive capacity and critical infrastructure, improve the business and investment climate, and scale up efforts to mobilize domestic resources to support the development agenda.
Participants at the African Prosperity Dialogue, dubbed the Kweu Summit 2023, included captains of industry, entrepreneurs, economists, bankers and other business leaders in Africa. It is a platform for stakeholders of the African economy to elevate the AFCFTA's objective from ambitions to actions. As of November 2022, 44 countries out of the 54 had ratified the AFCFTA. It will eliminate tariffs of 97% of goods traded within the African continent, offering opportunities to establish businesses in Africa. Speaking at the closing session of the three-day summit, President Akufo-Addo said Africa must work with a sense of urgency to guarantee the economic and political prosperity of the continent. He called on business leaders to use the opportunities presented by the AFCFTA to invest in the continent.
We must now, with great zeal and fortitude, back this great ambition with our collective action to harness fully the benefits of a liberalized single market for goods and services. This must be our solemn and moral obligation to our continent, to our children, and to future generations. Cannot afford to fail.
The president complained about the transfer of illicit financial outflow from Africa.
We're already seeing some important progress. For example, a number of financial institutions have signed on to the Pan-African Payment Settlement System, a digital platform to facilitate trade. It is a significant step towards the creation of the single currency, which will be a major facilitator of the effectiveness of the single market.
The Secretary General of the AFCFTA Secretariat, Mr. Yamkele Meni, mentioned trade finance as one of the major challenges facing the AFCFTA.
Trade finance is inaccessible to millions and millions of small and medium enterprises that require trade finance to trade across borders. Not all African countries have ratified the agreement establishing the AFCFTA, and so the 10 remaining countries who have not yet ratified, we will work with them to ensure that the challenges that they experience, whether they are technical or political, that we confront those specific challenges.
Away from the Africa Prosperity Dialogue in the Eastern region, President Akufo-Addo has called for tolerance and coexistence among various religious groups in the country. He said freedom of worship guaranteed in the Constitution should not be taken for granted, but rather foster peace and unity among all. The president was speaking at the 60th anniversary of the recitation of the Holy Quran organized by the Tijaniya Muslim Council of Ghana at Prang in the Pru West district of the Bono East region.
A brainchild of the founder of Tijaniya, Sheikh Baba Jallo Maikano, former chief imam of the Ghana Armed Forces in the First Republic, started 60 years ago. It seeks to bring together Muslims around the globe to pray for peace and divine guidance. It is also to ensure peaceful coexistence among people from different religious groups in the country and around the world. The paramount chief of the Prang traditional area, Nana Kwadwo Nyarko III, commended President Akufo-Addo for projects executed by the government in the area. He also appealed to the president to complete projects, including the District Assembly Block Complex. President Akufo-Addo assured the Muslim community that the government would build an all-inclusive society that creates opportunities for Ghanaians, irrespective of their circumstances. He said the policy on development of inner cities and Zongo communities would be pursued to the letter.
My presence here to come and express the solidarity of all the people of Ghana
with all of you here today. We are all one people, and we must continue to remain one people.
The leadership of the Tijaniya Muslim Council of Ghana said the peaceful coexistence of religious groups in the country should not be taken for granted and urged all to maintain religious tolerance for nation building.
Let's take it to the Ashanti region and look at safety. The Ghana Police Service says even though it has reduced the number of checkpoints along the highways to ease traffic congestion, the service is determined to deploy more personnel to curb highway robberies. A chief superintendent of police responsible for traffic law enforcement training and research at the Motor Traffic and Transport Department of the Ghana Police Service, Dr. Sasu Mensah, was speaking at Kumasi in the Ashanti region at a sensitization forum with partners in the road sector.
Partners in the sector to share ideas on issues of road transport and transit facilitation to improve sustainability of national and regional road networks. It was organized by the Ghana National Road Transport Facilitation Committee under the supervision of the Ministry of Roads and Highways and supported by the EU-sponsored Transport Governance Project. This is to ensure removal of obstacles along the corridor for free flow of interstate road transport. Participants at the forum discussed the Ghana Driver's Guide document published in 2011 and updated later last year. The Axle Load Manager of the Ghana Highway Authority, Mr. Albert Osayanan, explained that way bridges have been built along the major roads in the country to protect the road infrastructure from damage.
Axle load control policy is to reduce overloading to 0% so that we can preserve the investment made on the road infrastructure.
A member of the West Africa Road Transport, Alhaji Abubakar Abdul, who is also the chairman of the Haulage Transport Drivers Training Center, advised drivers to cooperate with police personnel along the highway, especially compliance with axle weighing.
We should be free and fair with each other. But when it is time you have overloaded, be fair and polite with due respect and shade off and pay your fine.
Chief Superintendent Dr. Sasu Mensah, who is in charge of traffic law enforcement training and research at the Motor Transport and Traffic Department of the Ghana Police Service, said the Ghana Police Service is determined to ensure security and safety along the highways.
The BIA has a number of roadblocks, also, but yes, roadblocks not also. But yes, also police roadblocks in BIA if you want, but. You roadblocks, and say you be compromise security. Security ni be mium. So be am robbers, umunya a role to play.
The chief engineer at the Policy Planning and Evaluation Department of the Ministry of Roads and Highways, Mrs. Efua Ifa, advised road users and all stakeholders to apply instructions in the Ghana Driver's Guide to ensure safety on the country's roads.
Still on matters of security, the police administration has interdicted the police inspector for negligently leaving a service rifle in a commercial vehicle. A statement issued and signed by the head of the Public Affairs Unit of the Western Regional Division of the Ghana Police Service said the rifle has since been returned by the driver of the said vehicle, who also alleged that the inspector has extorted money from him. The interdicted officer, Inspector Suleimana Adam, stationed with Rapid Deployment Force at Takrade in the Western Region, has been referred to the Police Professional Standards Bureau to allow for a thorough investigation into the circumstances surrounding the incident. The statement says both the inspector and the driver are assisting with investigations. Let's take you to the Upper East region. Families of some 16 persons who died in their line of duty at the Earl International Mining Company in the Talensi district of the Upper East region are demanding compensation 4 years after the incident. They say the company is yet to resolve the issue despite a directive from the Minerals Commission to that effect.
Briefing, relatives of the victims from the Talensi Mining Communities Initiative called on the Minerals Commission and government to facilitate compensation packages for them. They claimed many of the youth in the area who worked for the company have lost their lives due to unsafe mining practices, and the families have not duly been compensated. Mr. Albert Na is a member of the group.
The government prescribed some punishment against the company in 2019. We were expecting that there will be a similar prescription or government should share its fine, the $50,000, at least some part of it, to the victims' families. That is what we are asking for.
Other relatives of the deceased workers of the company also spoke to GBC News.
We are calling on authorities to take this matter serious, very serious, because our children are not rabbits, they are human beings. And so if somebody have caused this crime, the fellow must not go scot-free.
A spokesperson for EL International, Mr. Ebenezer Bognap, said the mining company known in 2019 as Shanzi Mining Company was not found culpable for the death of the 16 workers. He said they were made to pay a fine of $50,000 after investigations were conducted by the Inspectorate Division of the Minerals Commission for various breaches that resulted in the accident at its enclave.
Let's take you to Apiate. The rebuilding of Apiate has been traditionally dominated by male workforce and is making a concerted effort to meet the stipulated September deadline. Among this daunting task team is a gem, a 33-year-old lady putting brick and mortar together, not just for the financial reward, but to see families reunite at the old settlement, but in a modern town. GBC News' Clara Mlano recently came upon the only woman working at the Apiate site and shares her story.
Not the desire of her husband to see her engage in such work, seen as odious in a sector stereotypically male-dominated. He would have preferred she maintained the trading business in pastries and drinks. But her joy is there's dignity in labor.
Se botabi ansonyo dan baton me beyin etumi siso wan wode na fa yedwuma ama won se etuma akowa no enye bi ahwa womba.
Being a woman doesn't exempt her from any of the day-to-day activities. Work begins at 6 a.m. and ends at 6 p.m. Together with her colleagues, in a day, they are tasked to use 50 bags of cement to produce blocks for reconstruction works on their allotted slot. Minekwa easily fits into the mason role at Apiate when job openings became available, having learnt the trade as an apprentice at Brewa.
School na ina moton onso nti ona ma wonyenye nti na masipapai oli yedwuma mosom na menye bi me da abo mofoma no wo school ma me de ja meet fa me de ye doko menye.
Her employer is satisfied with her work and plans to keep her at post until she decides otherwise.
In the beginning, wanted to avoid her of molding the block. By looking at the vim and the encouragement she brought, made me know that yes, she could do it. What a man can do, a woman can do it better.
Now, income from this venture supports her husband in catering for their 5 children, and she hopes to set up her own block factory someday.
Maybe Jina Jumayan, Afini, Messia more Chinabina Samusum Massa, Mituna Masumada here.
By September 2023, when the first phase of the 124 housing units is complete and handed over, and the roll call is mentioned, Minekwa's name will be on the list as the only woman among the Apiate reconstruction workforce to rebuild the collapsed community from the dust. Clara Mlano, GBC News, Apiate.
Let's take you to the foreign front and start off from Africa, where Nigeria's central bank has extended the deadline to exchange old banknotes for redesigned ones. There have been long queues at some banks as Nigerians have struggled to meet the original deadline of Tuesday. People now have until 10th February to do the swap.
redesign of the higher denomination Naira notes has been heavily criticized, with analysts saying 6 weeks was not enough time for Africa's most populous country to phase out the old currency. It is happening a few weeks before the country goes to the polls in presidential and parliamentary elections. Local media has been reporting that there are not enough of the new notes in circulation, with people unable to withdraw them from banks. The move by the Central Bank of Nigeria is seen as a push to encourage Nigerians to embrace digital payments in a society where cash is king. It hopes the exchange will bring some of the cash currently being hoarded by individuals and companies back into the banking system. The bank governor said the new deadline of February 10 would allow more people in rural areas where there are very few bank branches to exchange the old notes. He added that Nigerians would then have a further 7 days to deposit old notes directly with the Central Bank of Nigeria.
Now, in the UK, Tory party chairman Nadeem Zahawi has been sacked after an inquiry by the Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. Ethics advisor found he had failed to disclose the HMRC was investigating his tax affairs. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak said Sir Laurie Magnus's inquiry made clear there had been a serious breach of the ministerial code.
Sir Rishi Sunak, Sir Laurie said Mr. Zahawi had not only failed to include the HMRC investigation in his register of interest until July 2020, but also failed to update it once a settlement had been reached. Sir Laurie said the MP had missed many chances to be open about his tax. After receiving the findings, Mr. Sunak wrote to Mr. Zahawi praising his time in government, but said he had decided to remove him from the government. In response, Mr. Zahawi thanked the Prime Minister and said he took pride in his achievement, highlighting the vaccine rollout and the Queen's funeral, but did not offer any apology for breaching the rules or mention his tax affairs. He promised to support the Prime Minister from the backbenches in the coming years. Prime Minister Sunak asked for the investigation after there were reports that Mr. Zahawi had paid HMRC a penalty over previously unpaid tax.
Now, more than 50 people have been killed in 2 separate travel-related accidents in Pakistan on Sunday. At least 41 people died when a bus fell into a ravine and caught fire in the southwest, while in the northwest, at least 10 children drowned in a boating accident. All the dead recovered so far at the lake were aged between 7 and 14. At the bus crash site, the bodies were beyond recognition. The crash occurred near the southern city of Bella in the Balochistan province when it was traveling to the port city of Karachi. 40 bodies were found alongside 3 injured people, one of whom died shortly after. The 2 remaining survivors were in a serious condition. The bus reportedly hit a pillar on a bridge before the crash. The boat capsized on Tanda Dam, close to the border with Afghanistan. Over 10 people died, while 11 children had been rescued, with 6 in critical condition. Another 9 are believed to be missing. The boat they were traveling on was carrying more than 24 people on a day trip from a local madrasa Islamic school when it overturned. And that's it for GTV Breakfast News this morning. So when you log on to gbcghanaonline.com, I am multi-decider Sadeka. Show is packed. You'd rather be with us than be anywhere else. Up next, we'll be looking at data protection and how you can protect your biodata. On Health Check, we'll be looking at the World Tropical Diseases Day. There's the issue of the school placement system saga or fraud. I'll be discussing that on GTV Breakfast as well. CAF also brings us the deadly breach at Afenya. You don't want to miss insights into that story. I'll be back at 7 with all what's trending in sports. Stay with GTV Breakfast.